Welcome back to the magazine segment on K24 this morning. Now, parenting following the old age, whose warning informs all that the fate of unruly children is in the world's worst disciplinarians, while parents are implored to reel back the black sheep to the pen, lest the world takes it hard on them. Now, to help us discuss the support needed to ensure parents are able to manage in these changing times is Veronanda Kuboka and Victor Osigo from Naya, Kenya. Welcome, guys, to the show.
Thank you.
First and foremost, tell us about your organization. What does Naya stand for? What does it deal with? What does it advocate?
Network for Adolescents and Youth of Africa is a regional advocacy network for young people, founded in the year 2001 to advocate for the implementation of policies and legislation on adolescent and youth sexual health and rights, and realize there are issues that come here, and young people are really not sure how do they exercise the extra energy they have, the issues that influence their decisions around the sexual health and rights. And so as an organization then, it is our core mandate to empower the young people so that they can be able to make the right decision, because I mean the choices they make during their teenage or youth will affect how they go on with their lives in the future.
And what were the findings of the organization based on these particular issues you have raised?
Okay, one of the things is there was no policy environment. More specifically, there was no policy in Kenya, for example, looking at the issues of adolescent reproductive health and rights. And we worked with our stakeholders and the government agencies, and we brought in the adolescent reproductive health and development policy that gave a clear framework on the things that need to be tackled. Then in the policy area, there are issues around sexuality, drug and substance abuse, teenage pregnancy, harmful cultural practices, and the role of different stakeholders, including the media, government agencies, non-governmental organizations, and religious leaders, in ensuring that we have an all-rounded young person who fits well into the society.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We were also able to do a comprehensive research on the implementation of sex education and life skills in schools. And as in the course of doing that, we realized that there's a very big gap. Young people, particularly in schools and with the implementation of sex education programs, young people are still not talking. The issue of sex education in schools is not still being addressed openly and as we'd want it to be talked about.
What are some of the challenges that has hampered sex education in schools particularly? And do you have maybe a difference when it comes to certain areas where people are easily acquainted to such kind of methods to teach the young people or to let them know about sexual education as compared to other regions?
One major challenge we have in schools in trying to implement sex education is the aspect of the teachers play the role of both being a teacher and a counselor, which at times is very hard. And then there's also a lot of limited time in trying to implement the whole program in schools, because you realize if there's any school who has any counseling program, they only allocate 30 to 45 minutes on the same. So it's quite a challenge.
A day?
A week, could be a week, or most probably when they invite someone to just come and speak over, and that would take you'd go to a school like maybe twice a term or something. So the time is quite limited, and also the teachers are they're taking up two roles, being a teacher and trying to be a counselor at the same time.
Now, what are the effects of that? The students feel threatened to talk to the teachers about certain issues?
Yes.
Or what becomes a problem here?
Actually, when I go to schools, it's very easy for a student to tell me anything as compared to their teacher. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Has taboo proven to be a challenge also? Where people think these are not things we discuss with other people, especially in school?
Well, there's a very strong aspect of cultures and taboo that comes into play. I mean, but you realize that even in the African context, there were those sessions that were dedicated, they were specifically dedicated to issues around sexuality, where the boys could sit with their grandfathers or their fathers, and the girls could sit with their mothers or grandmothers, and there were those lessons. However, you realize that things have changed. There's a very strong aspect of globalization that has come in, and now I don't need to go to my mother. I can, with a click of a button, I can get all that information I need. But then the thing is, what kind of information do I get? Mm-hmm. Is it correct and consistent, or is it just information that somebody has put together for their own reasons? So that is one play. Then the other thing is you realize that teachers are also parents, and when you get back home, the parents try to avoid certain issues around sexuality, certain issues around the young people, and young people are growing and they are learning. So if you don't talk to them, they are learning it from elsewhere, and so who corrects whatever they learn from elsewhere?
How do you ensure that you bring about this directive or this guide as to this is what you can expose yourself to, this is not right for you? Because at the end of it all, when you leave, the students are left to themselves.
One of the major things we do is create forums to make sure that we empower most of the young people in schools, and then leave them to make the right decisions, because we cannot make any decision for them. So we provide a lot of capacity building forums and a lot of empowerment sessions so that they are able to make well and informed decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yes. If you zoom in on the sex education, what are some of the biggest problems some of the youth that you have dealt with have raised up as something maybe hampering their development?
A lot of it is they feel that the parents should be able to talk to them first from home, which is not done. Most of them will come and tell you, I get a lot of information from my friends, either from the internet or from the peers. So according to them, and throughout my dialogue with them, they've shared the aspect of charity beginning at home, meaning that their parents should be able to address and talk to them about sexuality issues from home first. So that in case they get any other thing outside there, it's very easy for them to counter or demystify that.
Mm-hmm. And is this information age restricted? Do you deal with, say, students from class 7 going upwards, class 6, secondary school?
I mean, the information is as per the level of the student, because again, you don't want to do a lot of information baggage where whatever you expose standard 1, 2 is the same as what you expose.
So there is education also for standard 1 and 2 and 3?
Of course, because this is something you need to inculcate in them from a very tender age as they grow up.
What are some of these values you inculcate in a class, the lower classes students?
One of the things is personal responsibility. I mean, you have to take responsibility, and responsibility starts from the point of where you need to get to school early, you need to ensure that you do your assignment on time, you need to ensure that if you have a problem, then you see the right authority. Don't grow in a culture where you cover up your friends just because they're your friends. There has to be that respect between students and teachers. So these are very, very key, so that they realize that for them to, as they grow, then there has to be the boundaries. As much as I might be used to a teacher, then there are boundaries that how far I can go as a young person. And then there are those also issues around the boy child and the girl child, and how do they relate, because you realize at home you're told, hey, boys, don't play with girls.
Yes.
And nobody answers why.
Oh, it's like you go to church and women are seated on one end and men are seated on the other.
Yeah.
And on the other side, nobody tells you, why should I not hold his or her hand, while my brother and sister at home, I hold their hands? So what's the difference?
Exactly.
So these questions there are gray areas. So in trying to unpack this, then you realize there's nothing wrong with holding your hands. To me, there's nothing wrong with holding your hands. So we have to put this right from the word go. Then the children can grow up knowing it's not wrong. But again, they need to grow up appreciating the opposite sex, that they also have just equal chances and an opportunity to interact with them. And there has to be that respect despite our differences in gender.
What critical role do parents play? Because I know that's one of the key missions and visions for your organization, in integrating parents in their development of their youth.
Parents, for that matter, play a very major role, because it's normally at times very easy for me to listen to what my mom is telling me, or for me to be able to have that ability to internalize a lot of values when I'm growing up. So when someone is growing up, particularly between the ages of 0 to either 6 or even above that, it's so important for the parent to just be a friend first to the kid, to create that good environment for the parent and the child to be able to share matters of sexuality, relationship issues, issues of hormonal changes, which most parents avoid talking about. So that's when I get to that age of maybe, let's say, 13, 14, and I start feeling I'm attracted to the opposite sex, I just tell myself, wait a minute, that is very normal, but I need to have boundaries. I need to have power of negotiation, for instance, as a lady. I need to have strong decision-making skills. I need to have high self-esteem, so that I know, yes, you're telling me as a guy I'm beautiful as a woman, I know that, yeah? And
like you did not catch me off guard.
Yeah, I know. I already know it. It's not any new news to me. I know that, and I still have so many things to accomplish. For now, that's not my priority. Yes.
How do you manage to inculcate these values, especially say you're dealing with students or young people from these very remote parts of the country, where already talking about that issue is a taboo, you know?
Okay, one of the things is, as you work around these issues, there is also aspect of you do a background check in their culture, what is acceptable, so that you start from the known to the unknown. Yeah, and as you start from the known to unknown, you build on the strengths of the culture. You need to appreciate that culture also plays a key role. Then you bring in now the new aspect, so that you don't get resistance from the word go.
How do you also find this middle ground where parents feel, in our times this was unacceptable, and the young people are feeling, in my time this is very ordinary? I mean, you cannot tell me this. How are you guys able to help people find that middle ground?
That's purely an issue of different generations. What we are trying to do, we are trying to make sure that there's a great balance between the parents and the young people. If a parent, for instance, would give me freedom and make sure there's guidance that matches that would greatly do as well. But we don't want to have that perception of whereby parents feel, hey, I'm the one who is saying here, and the young is, hey, you know what, I am growing up, I have these feelings, and I need to let them out. How do I go about it? So we are trying to make sure that there's that forum whereby young people are empowered to respect parents, for that matter, and also parents are also empowered so that they are able to come up to the level of whereby they can be able to interact and strike a balance. Not neglecting what their parents are saying per se, but being able to just sit under the parents and listen to them in regard to the counsel, to the wise counsel they have.
Have you been able to pinpoint success stories, if you're to zoom in on one particular youth that you dealt with, and they were able to cement the relationship between their parents and themselves, and actually accept themselves better as compared to before?
I mean, we have a lot of success stories, starting right from the settings, the religious settings, to schools. Because one of the things is we also get a chance to talk during the parents' meeting. And just as the United States President said, Barack Obama said, that parents must also exercise the responsibility that they can be able to switch television sets and tell their children it's time to sleep, it's time to do assignment. So then we also stress to the parents, you have to define the boundary. It's not about mommy, daddy all the time. Nobody's going to mommy or daddy them throughout their life. There is life outside mommy, daddy. And you need to bring up children in a way that they can be able to fit well in the society. Because, I mean, we are living in a very dynamic world. And unless you do this at a tender age, then it will reach a point where they feel like the world is sinking and they have no more role to play in this world.
So it's more or less leading by example.
Yes.
It's like someone told me, you tell your young teenagers don't go out drinking, and you're that kind of person you're that kind of parent who always comes home late and drunk.
Yeah.
I mean, is that going to reflect on anything? the behavioral change?
It definitely won't, because as you've said, we have to make sure that we lead by examples. And young people watch, and then out of that, it's very easy for them to capture you by exactly what you're doing. Because if I come and tell you, for instance, don't drink, and I'm drinking, it doesn't make sense. So I have to be, as a parent, I have to be a great role model to my kids and to the people around me, because so many people are looking up to people that can give them direction in life, and they are not there as young people. That's what I believe. So it's a high time parents should stand up, lead by example, be good role models, and young people will follow suit.
What are some of these challenges that parents would point out at when it comes to dealing with their young people?
One of the things is there's that generational change. There's a gap. At one point, there are those parents who still hold dear the way they were brought up, and the young people who are also seeing those are old tricks that no longer play on us. So one is there's a shift in generational change. Then the other thing is the economic factor. You realize now we are so much into job hunting. We are too much attached to our office work that at the end of the day, we don't have that bond with our children, and then we leave a gap. Then the other thing is that you've also brought out is about role modeling. At times you realize that in a family, there are those people, like if you take an example of men, they still believe men are the head of the families. But then the children are seeing, no, it's not daddy who provides, it's mommy who pays our school fees. So how is daddy the head of the family? So there's also, again, that aspect of communication between the parents, and then communication between the young people. How do parents, the way parents package the information to young people is not the way young people also perceive it. So to unwrap this, then there's need to package information in a way that young people will appreciate, something that can really trigger them to act, not to be resistant to whatever you're telling them. Then the second thing is instilling values that will go a long way in shaping the future and the destiny of the young people of this country and the young people of Africa.
What are some of these values that parents have raised?
One of the things is there has to be the respect. There has to be that intergenerational respect. You have to bring the aspect of, you look at leadership as a key thing in bringing them up. Then responsibility. The children needs to be responsible, and then parents also need to be responsible. The other thing is you look at, give them the authority to be able to express whatever they think about. But also as young people, we must also remember that freedom comes with responsibility still. So when you are given freedom, also there are boundaries, how far you can go.
Exactly.
Then the other thing is, what you're going through as young people, there's nothing much new. You'll reach a certain age and then you realize that your children will also perceive you to be old school. And again, you still say, I'm not old school, I'm not like my mom. Your mom also said they are not like
so there's always that time difference.
There's time difference. So as you walk through the journey of teenagehood or youthhood, remember there is life beyond that. So you really have to define what do you want. And the other thing again that the parents need to inculcate in their children is the goal. What goal are these children working towards? If you keep on telling your child that you will be a charcoal dealer all the life, I'm not saying charcoal dealing is a bad thing.
That used to happen a lot in school, especially. Yes. You're going to rot in the village.
Yeah, in the village and all that. Then your child will grow up knowing, oh, so after my education, I'll rot in the village. But if we inspire the children at a tender age to be able to take an early lead in their life, action, there could be challenges at a family level, but how do you work around these challenges to have that an all-rounded young person.
This brings me to this. You mentioned teachers. What critical role do teachers play, and especially when you lead by threatening such kind of work, like if you don't do this, you will rot. Does it have positive results at the end of it, or has it proven to work in certain situations, or that is totally a no-no zone of or no-no way of doing things?
I feel as a person it's very, very important for teachers, even as a parent, not to use any abusive terms or try to threaten a kid, because if I internalize that as a person, I will live throughout that. For instance, tell me that many teachers have told students you will lead to nothing in life. And people have lived with that. You have so much potential within yourself, but you can't bring it out.
So it limits you.
It limits you completely. So it's good for us to make sure that we encourage, we inspire, and we try and motivate the young people, because by me instilling positive values in you, and by me telling you, yes, you've not done it right, but you can be able to make it, can make a very big difference.
How are they able to balance between being strict, being firm as a teacher, and also being gentle in terms of advising? I need you to listen to me. At the same time, I don't want you to fear me because I'm your teacher. How are you able to help them achieve this?
One of the things is learning is never done through fear, and that's one of the things we stress.
Yeah.
You need to put fear, instill fear in people for them to respect you. And the other thing is, as a teacher, if you play your role well and you play the part, because a teacher is also a parent at the same time, because I mean most of the hours we give them that responsibility to be with the children, and that is not a responsibility you can delegate as a teacher. So then when you are with them, what examples do you give them, and how far do you give them? What are the extremes around this? We even had challenges of the carnal knowledge between teachers and students. It's a very sorry state in our country, but these things happen. The other thing is, as a teacher, if you instill the aspect of positive mental attitude, then children will grow and they will see you as somebody who is really after their future. I have the teachers that many years ago, I've never forgotten them, and if I meet them, if I see them anywhere, even if they don't see me, I want to rush and say hi. You really helped me throughout my life, and that's right from the primary school through to the institutions of higher learning. And these are the people who you really look up to and you say, hey, were it not for that statement, maybe I could not be where I was.
But why doesn't that reflect, especially when people are still in school? You see your teacher, you do not even want them to notice that you are around the same place as them.
I mean, because
what happens somewhere?
I mean, because our culture and upbringing has been that a teacher needs to be feared, not respected.
Exactly.
So we create boundaries. I remember in the village when we were going to school, you could even see a teacher in the market and you salute the market and people are looking at you. Are you crazy? So one, we've instilled that aspect of fear in the children, that teachers need to be fear. Then the second is we've taken, teachers as very extraordinary people, not just like our mothers and parents. Because how come that when you're a teacher and you have your children at home, they're so close to you? When you get to school,
it's totally
something else. It's because you're using fear and intimidation, and this really don't work with the young people. They'll give you all sorts of names. They'll create very clear boundaries, and you'll always be repelling throughout your life. And even there are teachers I still repel up to now, despite all those years, because some of the words they used, if I remember, I say,
forget it. Yeah. All right. How much of an issue is globalization in this whole thing of trying to inculcate positive values, especially from the parents' side, where cultures, and especially in Africa, cultures are changing and the youth are developing into totally different. The world is basically becoming one small global village, and this is not the same thing or the same mentality that the parents do have. Does it even make it harder for them?
Particularly when you look at the Western culture and bringing it to the Kenyan context, it becomes a very, very great challenge, because analyzing dress codes, how the Western culture does their thing compared to what we've been brought up to do as Kenyans or maybe as Africans, it's so different. So the issue of globalization has a great impact, particularly on the parents and on the young people, and it also brings in the great aspect which we've talked about, generational differences, whereby I feel I should be catching up with what is happening, with the latest fashion, with the latest news, with the latest everything that is latest.
Is there anything wrong with that?
There's a great danger, particularly if I've not disciplined myself as a person who is growing up, to knowing what is right and what route I should follow. If, as a person, I'm able to come to the level of sieving, particularly what I take in, there's no issue with that. But if I don't have the ability to, for instance, manage what is coming into myself, because we find very, very many young people going to the internet, searching for pornography issues and trying to analyze and look at the different things that come around with pornography, which is quite wrong. So if I'm able to deal with globalization positively and the issue of influence and the differences that are coming along with it, then that would save me a lot. Because one, I would be able to get correct and proper information as a young person. I'd be able to capacity build myself and also get empowered. Yeah.
There's also this challenge where from a very young age, parents would want to give their kids a say, because, even with the Constitution, everybody has a right to expression, and there are certain rights every person's enjoy. So you want to build a culture with your kid where you certainly want to be close to them. You want them to look at you as a friend. But what risks does it pose when it feels like now this kid it's their way or no way?
I think one of the risks that brings is, if they know it's their way or no way, then they start manipulating you, and you will always dance to their tune. Then the second thing is, you start neglecting your role as a parent, because when you are with your children, you can negotiate with them and say, this is how far we can go, and this we cannot get for now. But if you overpromise, then they will always manipulate you. Daddy, mommy, you said this and this. Then the other aspect to that is, parents need to realize that at one point you will not be with your child forever in life. Maybe they will be in a boarding school. So when they're in a boarding school, what happens? You've transferred your role to another person, and you still have the teachers who intimidate them in the same boarding school. So how do you prepare again them to be able to take up this role? So it's about negotiation to come up to a win-win situation where there are boundaries, there are things you can do and there are things you cannot do, and you stand firm on them as a parent, because they will also appreciate.
Is it different for a kid or a youth who's growing up in a complete family unit and one who's probably being raised by one of the parents in terms of how they look at life?
Both the parents in the issue of parent-youth communication are very key. But you find that many times you also have both parents, but one parent is there physically, but they are not there.
It's dysfunctional.
Completely dysfunctional. So it's very important for parents to be able to bring up the kids, both the father and the mother be involved in trying to help up the kid come up. But in the instances where one parent is missing, of course, there's a lot of impact to the young person and to the kid who is growing up, because there's always that point whereby you'd want a mother figure, or there are things a mother figure would do, a father figure would not do. There are things a father figure would do, a mother figure would not do. So there's that disparity.
If we are to zoom in on a girl child who's growing up in a mother-only kind of family, does it affect their how they look at, say, relationships and how they look at the men entity?
Of course it does, because, for instance, if you've grown up with your mother only, it's very hard for you to have trust, maybe, for men. Then it's also going to be very hard for you to be able to just relate properly or appropriately with men. But if you have the father figure in your life, and the father figure always reassures you that maybe, my pretty girl, you're beautiful, you're wonderful, and we love you and stuff like that, then they give you that motivation, one, to be able to also try and build opposite sex relationship, because you will try and just reason with yourself and talk to yourself and say, hey, come on, it's working with my mom and dad, so why not? Why not take the risk?
How do you help, say, a young lady who's dealing with such kind of a problem where they have trust issues because of the background they have been exposed to?
One of the things is there's the aspect of social support. It's very key for them to realize that it's not their mistake, neither is it the mistake of the mother, but then they need to pick what are the positive attributes. Because if you pick the positive attributes, even if it's just one positive attribute, then you live through that, then you realize you're able to counter a lot of things. Then the other thing is, going just back to what we've highlighted before, is the communication, right from the parents. The parents need to open up and have a dialogue with the child so that they are able to realize what played into the mother being alone, or
At what age should they do that?
I mean, to me, I believe that should start at a very tender age, because children will always ask you, where is daddy? They will go out, for example, to play, and then they see the other children saying, that's my dad, then they'll come and
wondering
ask,
what happened to
what
me?
happened to my dad? And I mean, where's daddy? Where's daddy? So you need to start building on that concept as they grow up, so that when you finally unpack the whole thing, they're able to understand. Not waiting until they're 20 and saying, you know what? Your daddy ran away, and they're like, okay, why haven't you told me all these years, 20 years? So, yeah.
So say when you go into schools and you want to encourage these young people on how to inculcate and develop these very positive values in their lives, then someone asks you, at what age is it right to start dating?
For school kids, to be honest, I always tell them it's not a priority.
School kids, primary and secondary?
Yes. I tell them it's not a priority. They should be concentrating on their studies. Yes.
Well answered. And what are maybe some of these values that maybe they should weigh out when they actually want to get into one? And how do they identify if this person is just up for games, or it's just one of those puppy love moments that you're going through?
One of the things as an individual, you have to define what do you want in a relationship. That to me is very key. And then the second thing is, when you're starting your relationship, it's also prudent to build on or to list down the values that will guide you through. What are the values that will guide you through out your relationship? So once you build this, then there is that aspect of being an accountability partner. I mean, you are accountable to each other, and they say, we agreed on this and this has happened. So how do you course correct that? Then the other aspect is, you have to look at, are you ready for a relationship? And are you ready to live with the consequences? Because you enter into a relationship, and one of the risks is your heart can be broken, it
is a constant risk.
It's a constant risk. So how then do you try and mitigate the risk? So that's why, as my colleagues say, look at, are you ready? If you're ready, then you need to seize the opportunity. If you're not ready, waiting does not harm. Yeah.
Peer pressure is one of the biggest problems I know when it comes to youth relating with each other.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
The young people will always sit and say, hey, this is what is in trend and that. And one of the things that brings about this is we don't communicate these things at home. So they believe in the kind of maybe distorted information they get elsewhere, they transfer it. And you know, a peer has a lot of influence on each other, and they will really say, this is what happens. Like, I remember way back in high school, we could go for those, the Science Congress or sports, and everybody's, music festival, and everybody's saying, did you manage to get a lady today? And if you didn't do that, I mean, you'd be ridiculed the whole journey.
If you did not receive a letter on the first Friday of that.
It's just kills, eh? Yeah, so these are the issues that they need to look around. Yeah.
So how do we define the role of a man in the society? And when do they come in? Because like you mentioned, we come from the kind of a society that believes men are on the forefront and people on the ground, say children, are seeing what happens in their families, and this is where they're able to draw inspiration. So how do they define the role of a man? Is it the man that has a say to say no and just him?
Well,
when it comes to a relationship, I feel it's good if both parties are involved. Yes, you might also have the say, but I also have my say. Yeah, so it's important for both parties to get involved in everything. It's not only the man who has a say in a relationship or even in a family. There are points in time whereby, of course, my mom would stand up and say something, or my dad would stand up and say something. So it's both ways. It doesn't
the spiritual
only
directive would call for submission. So
yeah.
When do you submit, and when are you supposed to voice your concern and say, no, I do not believe in that, and I will not stand up for this?
I feel it's always important for you to freely express what you feel regarding a particular issue. Then out of that, be able to make a consensus or agree. But it doesn't have to be, it's always a man saying, it's always a man saying, it's always a man saying. I should also have my say.
Victor, now that we're putting you on the spot, do you think we have what it takes to actually create these role models that will serve as templates for girls in deciding that this is the right man? Are we putting about across the right men for our girls, for our young girls out there, who they can say, if I was to get to know so and so better, I do not risk losing a young life, because these men are responsible. These men have shown that they've got more than it takes to bring about a responsible young woman. Have we got that? And if not, what hampers this?
Thank you. One of the things we need to start doing as a society is try to open a space where the young people, the ladies and men are able to interact and discuss issues freely, so that we only don't meet during music festivals or Sunday in church. Right from our religious settings, then we need to have these forums, and the forum should be able to build, and we try to unpack things that we've always considered as gray areas. As a family, we also need to start doing this and bring up this issue. But one of the things that impedes this particular aspect is the level of trust. Because based on past experience, you say, this happened to so-and-so, am I exceptional? You might not be exceptional. Then the other thing is, you realize that as you walk in the society, you say, is that the kind of a man I want to date? No.
So what's happening with the men in their society at the moment?
Well, I'll be very honest with you. At times, from a man's perspective, we do not play our parts well. And when you don't play your part well, somebody else will play, and that's where some mothers will seize the opportunity and they'll run away with it, and children will always know it's the mother who does everything.
Certainly.
Yeah, so there is that aspect of the father needs to play their role, the mother needs to play their role, and then the children needs to play their role. And then there has to be the aspect of open communication. How many times do you have that quality time with your family, as a mother, as a parent, and both of you? And what do you discuss during this time? Is it just which position were you? Did you do the assignment? There is much more to life than just that.
Assignment.
What do you do? I mean, yeah. So we also have to have those forums and discussions that will help young people to build the trust and say, yeah, I want to be like my daddy, I want to be like my mommy. Then the other thing you say is, we've also discussed is role modeling. That is very key. As a daddy, don't just be the one who creates the rules and you say you are above board. You're not able, you should not be following those rules. It is theirs. If rules are created in a family, then it is ours. Yeah, it's not theirs. Yes. And then the other thing is, men need to appreciate ladies, that we are equal
Veronanda
partners.
has never agreed with that.
Because the thing is, we are equal partners. We sit in the same class.
Yes.
We do the same exams. We go to the same institutions of learning, then where does men become superior to ladies? If we all go through the process, then one of the things I've always also said in the society is this issue of dowry and a lot of these things. It makes men feel a bit super.
I bought you, so you deserve to. You should listen.
You should submit.
Yeah. So we have to look at, if it is dowry, then we don't make it look like you're paying an expense or you're trying to buy somebody. How do we negotiate about it? Because we have cultures where women are the people who
pay down.
Yes, like the Indian culture, women pay down.
Yeah.
Veronanda, what's your thought on that?
I think Victor has said it quite properly. It's a high time men stand up, take responsibility, and know that women are really getting empowered at a very, very fast rate. So it's not all about us wanting to be maybe Miss Independence, what they call, but it's about us having that kind of forum whereby I'm able to view in to give in my views as a woman. You're able to listen to me as the man, and we're able to come up to a consensus and say, hey, I think what you're saying is viable, but not looking at me and saying, men, you should submit. Men, you're being rude, or you're being mean, or you're being that. It's good for you to listen to me. I listen to you, then we come up to a point of agreement.
I remember we talked about how critical the family unit is. So how are we able to reverse the effects that it can have on childhood of, say, children who have gone through very abusive or very unstable families, and actually ensure that it's not repeated in future?
One major thing that has helped me personally before I help the other young people is being able to talk about what I've experienced. Maybe if there's any past experience I had when I was growing up, is having the ability, one, to deal with my issues first. Because if I'm not able to deal with my issues as a young person, it's going to be very hard for me to be able to help that other young person.
Certainly.
So if you've grown up and you've had issues in the past, it's a good standpoint for you to deal with your own personal issues. And counseling has greatly helped me as an individual. It has made me, one, realize and know who I am, and apart from that, given me a lot of good values, and being able to help me have a very, very high self-esteem and high levels of confidence. So you have to deal with those things that you feel as a person are weighing you down. Be able to re-experience and go through your past experiences and deal with them as a person, and then help others.
Your team has got immense wealth on the youth-parent interactivity, but what are these avenues you're using to reach out to the parent as well as the youth?
One, the youth is the open forums in schools, in churches, and in the community. Those are very key. And the other aspect now that is coming into play strongly is the new media. And the young people will really, they like debating on the issues at times online, because they know our daddy is not listening. It's us,
Like you never have your dad or mom as a friend on Facebook.
So that is also another thing that has played very strongly in ensuring that these issues are taken to the next level. But the other thing I want to say that is very critical here is role modeling. It's high time. If we cannot have one-to-one role models, then it's a high time we have kind of a group sessions that helps in bringing out these values and helping inspiring these people. Because as human beings, at times, it's not what we've gone through that really weighs us down, but the lack of inspiration to be able to move to the next level and to be able to listen to somebody's story and say, hey, so-and-so went through this and now they are at this level. Why not me? So to me, those are very key in trying to unpack the whole issue.
And how are you reaching to the parents? How are you getting this message to the parents themselves?
The parents, what we're doing is we take advantage of the forums that they have in schools. So
parents also attend?
Yes, parents attend during their PTA meetings, for example. We get sessions to talk to parents around this issue. We also have the sessions in the church that we talk to parents around this issue, and any other organized forum that brings parents together. It's very, very critical for us, so that we also make them realize that there's a shift, there's a generational shift, and we need to appreciate this and work around it.
I'm tempted to ask, have you guys always been this responsible young people out there telling others how to be responsible, or it's something you also developed as you started doing this? And how did you even get yourselves into doing this kind of a thing?
Okay, as we were growing up, I had my bit of challenges. But I realized, I've always realized one thing in life, that if I was born in a poor family, it's not my mistake. But if I bring up a poor family, it is my mistake. So then, how do I work around this? I started working around this through, now I have role models, and we have mentors. I have mentors and life coaches, and I create time. At times, it calls also for sacrifice. For example, there are times I meet my mentor as early as 6 a.m. in the morning to maybe 7 a.m. and we try to discuss. There are times I meet my life coach as late as 8 p.m. Through to 9, and we have to discuss this. So in the process, these people help in bringing the values. And the other thing that has helped me is reading through what different authors have published in parenthood, looking at the motivational, like clips online, and just trying to find those motivational books and say, what can I pick through this, and then how do I transfer knowledge? And that's really helped me, because at one point I had, and then I decided also to put together a business. And in the process of putting this business, I realized there's even more responsibility. Now I have to balance my academic life, social life, and the business life, and I have to manage this because I have placed in investment in all these things. So it is that aspect of realizing that you need to be responsible and you need to take charge of your future, and that is what has really worked.
Veneranda, your experience?
I would say, for a matter of fact, in order for you to win trust, particularly with the young people we are working with, they always want someone they can look up to. So for me, it's not been an easy journey, I would admit that. I also have my own personal weaknesses and flaws, but I also have my strong points, which I majorly focus on. Everything in life is a process. We are not yet there, but we are really giving it our best. And
when was this point the both of you realized that actually I've got a responsibility, and a huge one for that matter, before me? That's why I really need to align myself, to align my life in a way that I'll be able to meet all those responsibilities. You mentioned something to do with life coaches, mentors. Maybe a lot of people do not know the importance of having such people in their lives.
I mean, I realized this, I have to say I realized it a little bit late when I was in high school, not sure, but after high school I started to look at it. What kind of life do I want to live? And that is the point where I picked my first responsibility of out of school, just tamarking and then paying school fees for my cousin who had been orphaned, and there was nobody who was paying school fees for them. So I started that. Then I built on that to realize that my brother and sister also, their fees and the everything is done. So then I know that in the family then, my brother and sister, they look up to me, because I know if I don't pay their fees, then somebody's blaming me somewhere. And then I also realize, what do I want to develop in life? And the thing that helps me much is setting goals. What I do is on 26th December, in the morning after people have celebrated and it's an idle day, I set my goals for the next year.
You don't wait for fast?
No, I don't wait for fast. And that's why I always say I don't make resolutions, New Year resolutions. I set goals. And then after setting goals, I have a template where I say, what are the actions and what level of investment do I need to make? So that I attach a budget to it. Then I say, when do I review my week? I review my week on Sunday afternoon. So I sit and say, how was the week? What happened? What worked out? And what did not work out? I also have that chance to renegotiate with myself and say, I did not achieve this. What do I need to do? Did I set the goals so high that they're frustrating me? Or did I set the goals too low that I've easily achieve them. So then, in the process, I realized that at times I need to review my goals and say, I had expected to raise this.
So you don't always achieve what you had planned, but you always work with what you have.
I work with what I have, and then I work around the clock towards what I had planned, and I say, okay, this looks to be overstretched. Can I maybe spread it for the next 2 years? And how do I celebrate the little success I make throughout the way? I could go and say, today I'm only buying myself a dinner because I was able to pass my exams.
Your own exam.
Yeah, and I passed. So that's a success to me. So how then do I celebrate this small success in life? Yeah.
So we need to devise ways of also patting ourselves on the back.
Yes, it's very, very important. If you don't pat yourself on the back, who will? So treat yourself out once in a while. It's very key. That also gives you time to be able to reflect on what is working well with you, what is not working well, and what you need to improve on.
Final thoughts on this very interesting topic?
Well, I want to quote what Winston Churchill said. Courage is what it takes to stand up and speak. But courage also is what it takes to sit down and listen to others. So both parties need to listen to one another.
Veneranda, final thoughts?
For me, I would say, young people, for the parents, always do the difficult things to make life easy.
Thank you very much, guys, for your insights. You're actually young people who a lot of people out there would find inspiration from based on how you lead your lives. And that very inspirational note on how the responsibility is vested on the youth and the parents at the same time towards achieving a better society brings us to the end of K24 this morning. Thank you very much for keeping us company. Join us tomorrow, same time. But until then, be good. I'm Risian Lebai.